so lonely. I have nobody for my own. I'm so lonely. So lonely. I'm Mr. Lonely.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Dan Bongino has made his final post as Deputy FBI Director, marking the end of 1 year, a lot of ups and downs, a massive roller coaster, and probably the most fascinating stint we've ever seen for somebody taking a role in federal law enforcement when Dan Bongino was, let's just call it what it is, a podcaster, right? And then being amplified and promoted to the most powerful law enforcement position probably in the country. Deputy Director of the FBI is where all the work gets done. So Dan Bongino marking his final days. He is now officially gone from the FBI. As of this morning, President Trump announced at the end of last year that Bongino would be leaving. He said that it was too stressful on his marriage and on his business. He's been married for like 30 years. He has 2 daughters, children, and they didn't move to D.C. Dan Bongino was working in D.C., and he says it was very lonely and it was pretty depressing. And if you've been to D.C., you know that those things, quite frankly, are true. It's a very depressing city, very strange, spiritual energy. Dan Bongino, I will be leaving my position at the FBI in January. I want to thank President Trump, Bondi, and Patel for the opportunity to serve with purpose. Most importantly, I want to thank you to my fellow Americans who have the privilege to serve you. God bless America and those who defend her. He posted this on December 17th, 2025. This is Dan Bongino's final post from this account, the FBI Dan Bongino account that has nearly 1 million subscribers, of course, rocketing the following account because Dan Bongino is famous himself, has a ton of followers on his other platforms, has millions of followers on his other platforms. And probably the most followed federal account over the last year was this account. And this is the final post. And this is Dan Bongino quoting Donald Trump, saying that they have captured Nicolas Maduro. FBI had a big hand in this. They were handling Maduro and some of the criminal paperwork for Nicolas Maduro. So Dan Bongino posting this and saying it was a busy day on the job, last day on the job. This will be my last post on this account. Tomorrow I return to civilian life. It's an incredible year, and thanks to the leadership and decisiveness of President Trump, it was an honor and the lifetime to work with Director Patel and to serve you, the American people. I will see you on the other side, says Dan Bongino. Finally, Dan Bongino has officially departed the Bureau. What do you think about that? I mean, do you think that he should have stuck around, or do you think that this was time well served? The amount that you gave up to serve your country has not gone unnoticed. Can't wait to see what's next for Dan Bongino, who's now posting once again from his personal account here. And Dan Bongino now has been how the night unfolded, talking about how the FBI and special forces skimmed just 100 feet over the Caribbean Sea with an array of fighter jets. So the FBI was very much a part of the Maduro raid. Dan Bongino posting this morning, good morning. Hope you have a very happy Sunday with an American flag there. So one of the first private posts here from Dan Sands before the FBI, and Dan Bongino reposting his final post here. Let's just go ahead and check. 12,000 reposts, 92,000 likes, 2.8 million views. Your last post should have been Maduro in a bikini. Huge missed opportunity for us. So grateful for Dan Bongino and our country. I know I'm not alone. Who's with me? Let me give you my quick take on Dan Bongino on this. I mean, given the fact that I know him and I've worked with him before, I wanted to make something extremely clear. Dan Bongino took a job that no one could do. I mean, I'm just going to straight up say it. Doesn't mean he's a dumb person. It means he's an honorable person. Dan Bongino left untold millions on the table. Listen, the reality is that Dan Bongino had the #1 podcast in the world at the time that he departed. And he was just doing that podcast on Rumble. And he's a part owner of Rumble. He's been very clear about that. And so Dan Bongino was set to make a lot of money. He left millions and millions of dollars on the table. You've seen these cable news contracts and stuff like that. It's on that level when you have the #1 podcast in the world. And so Dan walked away from that for a job that I think pays like 170 grand. He traded that for what? For President Trump asking him to go do this job. He didn't have to say yes. He also left his family. That's a huge sacrifice. Moved to DC. That's a huge sacrifice. And then Dan Bongino went about doing his level-headed best to reform an agency that is beyond reform in many people's opinion. And it's my opinion as well, that there is just such deep endemic rot inside of the FBI. Was this a suicide mission, I guess, is the real question. And in some ways it was, because what were you dealt, what was the cards that he was handed? Well, it was handed some real tough situations like the Epstein situation, where I think a lot of other people other than Dan Bongino were making decisions, and they were bad decisions, and we won't support them. We'll call balls and strikes here. Nobody has the fortitude for liars, and we're not going to be one. There were some real huge mistakes made there. Dan Bongino threatened to quit over those mistakes, which, as far as I know, was one of the only people that did that. So that's an honorable thing for Dan. There's the good, the bad, and the ugly. I guess that's the ugly. The good would be obviously that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel have lowered murder rates in this country to the lowest that they've been in your lifetime or mine. Listen, this was the job that they had done at the FBI. They really went and attacked crime and solved crime. And right now, America is seeing drops in murder rates and drug deaths at exponential levels. Again, it's a really incredible thing. And there's been a bit of a revival spiritually in this country. It's a good thing. It is a very positive thing that was brought about by Dan and Kash on the crime numbers and on the disruption of crime numbers and the locking up of criminals. You can see that in the hard data. The data will prove it. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, so that's the good. And the ugly and the bad, I think, is some of the things left unsaid. And maybe Dan will be able to talk a lot more about it. Who knows, what kind of and I guess to get a classification clearance, you have to sign all this paperwork. You can't ever talk about classified material ever. And so who knows? But I would say the bad, Epstein's the ugly, the good are the crime numbers, and the bad is that there's work left unfinished, right? Like the pipe bomber's never been explained. What the hell was that? We need further explanation on a lot of work. It seems like there's a lot of unfinished work, right? We wanted Comey to be put in chains and to be marched through the cities, just like Maduro. That hasn't happened. We want deep state arrest. That hasn't happened. But I think there's room for improvement. I just feel like there's unfinished work. But my sources tell me that Dan Bongino was only going to stay for a year, and that's what he signed up for. And that year's now over, and good things have happened. Okay, so that's my take. Thank you, Dan Bongino. Welcome back. Thank you for your service to this nation. Dan Bongino was last day as Deputy FBI Director. Looking forward to watching Dan get back on his podcast. We can crush #1 on Rumble Video. Dan is a great guy and a total American patriot. Thank you, Dan. You're going to crush it when you're back on Rumble. There you go. Thank you, Dan. Can't wait to have you back on the radio. Thank you, Dan, for all you've done for us. See you soon. Sad to see you leaving. Dan Bongino posting also this incredible photograph of Donald Trump watching the Maduro raid. You can see some FBI agents actually there in the room. It's an honor of a lifetime to work for this man, says Dan Bongino. No lost love there between Bongino and Donald Trump. Donald Trump says that Dan Bongino did an amazing job. You haven't heard a bad word from Donald Trump about Bongino at all. Bongino has officially departed the Bureau. Thank you for your service. Officially left the FBI. He said it's an honor to serve you on his way out. And there it is. I sort of put this out there, and it's got seen by 1 million people, 50,000 likes, 8,000 reposts, and I completely stand by this. He put a lot of bad people. A lot of bad people were fired. A lot of bad people were put behind bars, and eventually, too much time away from your family will break you. Every good father and husband knows this. Dan's choosing his family and returning to his show, right? The business that he built. The FBI will need to rebuild, maybe need to be rebuilt from the ground up, but at least Dan Bongino was in the arena. So there we go. Bongino is back to civilian life. I can't wait for his first podcast. Thank you for fighting the good fight. Big things ahead, says Dan Bongino on the 1st of January. So that's the update, ladies and gentlemen. Final take on this. Nobody ever gets to see actual self-sacrifice or service. When people say, oh, you served your country, none of these people served. They were in it for a paycheck. Dan Bongino actually served. He actually gave up things to serve his country and to take this job. So I think that's honorable. It's your boy Benny. Like, share, and subscribe. See ya.